Here at Physio Fitness in Maidenhead, we use digital visual patient education tools such as this 3D image to fully explain where your pain is coming from. We can rotate the skeleton and the model round in all different directions so that you can fully appreciate where the structures are situated and how they might be impacting on your problem. We can add layers of muscles from the deep layers right the way up to the surface or superficial muscles, and we can remove them again so that you can again gain a clear appreciation of where these structures are situated. We can add the nervous system to these 3D images, and we can also look at the cartilage and connective tissue in the rib cage and the spinal cord. So if we look at an example now of the hip flexor, the psoas muscle on the right hand side here, you can see how deep that muscle is, and you can see that it starts from the lumbar vertebrae there. And if we spin the model back round so we can look at it from the back and get rid of this muscle here and re-highlight that psoas muscle, you can see how deep that structure is within the low back. And if we go back round to the front, you can see where it travels from the lumbar spine there, inserting onto each one of those vertebrae. It travels down into the front of the pelvis, down through the groin, and finally terminates in the front part of the thigh bone. So if we look at the diaphragm now, this is the muscle we use for breathing. You can also see that that muscle extends down into the lumbar spine and attaches to the vertebrae of the low back. Okay, so let's take an example now of the right shoulder and the rotator cuff muscles. This muscle is the subscapularis, and you can see here it is right within the shoulder, deep underneath the scapula or shoulder blade. And this muscle here is the supraspinatus that travels underneath the acromion process here, and this is a common site for shoulder impingement. So if I spin the model round now, you can see the infraspinatus muscle there, and just below that is the teres muscle. These are the rotator cuff muscles. And if I add another layer on top of this, we can see that the trapezius muscle here is over the top of the shoulder, and the deltoid muscle on the outside there covers the outside of the shoulder. So they protect the outside part of the shoulder, and the rotator cuff is really nice and deep within that shoulder and stabilizes the shoulder deeply. So now if we look at the connective tissue and the discs within the lumbar spine. So if I get rid of that ligament there and highlight one of the discs, you can see that if I spin the model round to the side, you can see that the disc is actually in the front part of the lumbar spine or low back. And if we spin that round some more, you'll be able to see that from the back, you can't actually see that disc because it is so deep within the lumbar spine, and it's protected by the ligaments and bones at the back there. And coming back round to the front, we can see that disc again. So now if we look at the nervous system and we highlight one of the common nerves that gives a lot of trouble, and it's the sciatic nerve, which is in your buttock region. It starts from the lumbar spine, comes through the pelvis here in this little notch. It travels into the buttock and runs all the way down the back of the leg into the foot. And it's a thick nerve. You can see there it's like a cord. And if we just appreciate how closely it runs in between these muscles of the buttock, the deep rotator muscles of the hip, you can see right there it travels underneath the piriformis here, which is one of the rotators of the hip, and the interface between that nerve and the piriformis is a site of common complaint. So if I now highlight the gluteus maximus muscle, your main buttock muscle, you can see how big that is in comparison to the structures underneath, and you can see how deep those structures are within the buttock region. So we take all the layers of muscles off now, spin it round to the front, and we can see where this nerve actually starts and where it travels through the pelvis. So it travels through this notch in the pelvis up into the front of the lumbar spine. So if I highlight that now, we can see that it travels up into the lumbar region there. I hope you found this helpful, and we look forward to seeing you at Physio Fitness in Maidenhead.